It's college baseball's opening day. Will the Sun Belt play for the national championship again? It's Locked On Sun Belt.
You are Locked On Sun Belt, your daily podcast on the Sun Belt Conference, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sun Belt, your teams every day. Today's episode brought to you by Mazda. We put the same drive into every detail. Win defines the moment, putting in the work that defines you. Stay tuned for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward. There's more to a Mazda because there's more to you. All right, we'll get to the basketball a little bit later. Did watch all three games. I'm not sure how great the basketball was, but you had three very good, well, we'll put it this way, close basketball games. All right. Coastal went into the Cajuns, went into Lafayette and hung on for victory there. JMU with a come-from-ahead victory, and South Alabama survives Southern Miss. And then we'll look ahead to who's going to stay hot this weekend. Can App maintain their spot atop the standings? But meanwhile, it is opening day. The college baseball season opens up today. Coastal starting off early. I had the schedule. There we go. They're having their ring ceremony at 3:30. Well, maybe it's at 2:30. It says 3 o'clock here, but on the Sun Belt schedule. But they're playing early. Maybe it's a Saturday. They're doing it. No, they play. It says 3 o'clock. I'm not sure that's the correct time. From what I saw, a Coastal story. But they're going to have a little ring ceremony and then put 2025 behind them. But again, even for me covering the Sun Belt and covering the Cajuns and South Alabama, and now the football and all the baseball, and watching, say, JMU not only do well in football this year, but basketball win a game in the NCAA tournament. Georgia State years ago winning a game in the NCAA tournament. But I'm not sure we've really wrapped our heads around what Coastal Carolina did last year. All right. They played for the national championship. I'm still trying to, I don't know if is there perspective? Is that like FAU getting to the Final Four? Something like that, right? I mean, they played LSU, and I think they went toe-to-toe. Is LSU better? Yes, they're better team. But in the first game, they made one more play. Or in Coastal's case, they made one less play. All right, maybe gone for two. And I don't know if they would have scored. Wasn't it 1-0? Right? Now, the LSU pitcher was outstanding, but Flukes was really good as well. And then the next game kind of all blew up. Morrison didn't pitch nearly as well as he can, and Kevin Schnall got ejected immediately. We all know the story. But that doesn't change the fact that they hosted a regional. All right. Florida didn't even get there, right? They had, I think, Coastal Carolina took down ECU to advance. And then they went into Auburn. And it always just feels like, Butch Thompson has a great team or is getting fired. There's like no in between with Butch Thompson. And he does such a great job. Years ago, they went out west. I think they won the super regional, ended up in, well, maybe not, but they went out west and won the regional, I think. And, then they struggled for a couple more years, and then they ended up hosting a super regional, right? Auburn fans will tell you they should have won that series. In the first game, they didn't line into one. They lined into two double plays, right? The first one would have ended it. The second one, I think, would have tied it. But it ended the game. And then, we made fun of it all that time. But, the difference between these sports, and these fans are not wrong by saying, it'd be almost impossible for a power or a G5 school to win a football national championship. And the three-pointer is a great equalizer. So you can win that and find your way to the Final Four, we've seen. But baseball is just flukier because you can do everything right and then still do it wrong, right? You can make a good pitch, get a dribbler in front of the mound, and the first baseman can't make the play. Whereas the other team, pitcher makes a good throw, and it's an out. All right, so we saw that last year. And for the most part, Coastal kind of cruised all the way to playing LSU. Now, I know Morrison's gone, but Flukes is there, and same thing is expected from Coastal Carolina. I saw was it Field of 64 did a, parody. They did like the top 16 seeds and, had some fun with it. But they had Coastal as their 4 seed. They had Southern Miss as a 12 seed, and they had Troy in there. All right. So Troy is back in their thing. And we're already doing bracketology. Season hadn't even started yet. As far as the Sun Belt goes, the poll and all the player stuff came out more than a week ago. Came out on February 4th. Some of us may have been consumed with the Super Bowl at that time. But Coastal Carolina, the odds-on favorite to win it, got 12 of the 14 first-place votes. Southern Miss picked up a first-place vote, which was probably Kevin Schall. And the Cajuns got a surprising first-place vote, although they finished 5th. So Coastal, Southern Miss, Troy. Marshall picked 4th. Cajuns are right behind them. Then Texas State, Georgia Southern, and Old Dominion are tied for 7th. Arkansas State is 9th. App State is 10th. South Alabama 11th. Georgia State 12th. James Madison 13th. And ULM is 14th. And again, we take these preseason polls because they're done. It doesn't, in this case, it doesn't really matter if it's media or coaches. The coaches barely know their team, right? Who was, I guess it was Rodney Hennon from Georgia Southern, or among others, right? Who says, doesn't matter what my lineup is in February and March, it's going to be different come May. And it's going to be different when we're playing Memorial Day weekend in Montgomery for the Sun Belt Championship. So, and we know that going in, right? It's not like, it really isn't like having a healthy offensive line all year long. That's a nice bonus, all right? But somewhere along the way, someone's going to get banged up. Someone's going to perform better. I mean, a couple of years ago, right, when the Cajuns played in the College Station Regional, their Friday night pitcher ended up being the best closer of the league, in the league. Talk about changing things around. And so we will see how it goes. But really looking forward to it. Let's see. And a couple of nice matchups this weekend. You do have Coastal Carolina's hosting Fairfield. Let's see here. Where is Southern Miss is hosting UC Santa Barbara. Remember Skylar Meade said you need to play more road games. They're starting on the road. They're starting at Mercer. Georgia Southern hosting West Virginia. Georgia Southern is getting West Virginia in a 3-game set, and then Georgia Tech. Nice. Niagara is at Texas State. South Alabama hosting USC Upstate. That's South Carolina. Arkansas State taking on Stony Brook. New Orleans is at Georgia State. Missouri State at the Cajuns. ULM is hosting Central Arkansas. We got Arkansas State's got a doubleheader. They're playing at 1. And then I look at this. Marshall is playing Evansville at 9 a.m. Talk about a tournament. 9 a.m. Talk about show and going. Canisius is taking on App State. And Old Dominion is hosting Quinnipiac in their not quite finished stadium. So we'll be all over the Sun Belt baseball from the first pitch. Not going to wait until the Sun Belt gets going or, conference race is going on. We'll be following it from the get-go and see who can look good early on. All right. So having said that, let's go back to basketball. South Alabama barely survives in Hattiesburg in a game that looked like they had control and barely hung on. All right. Southern Miss did something that I don't think many teams have done this year to the Jaguars. We'll do that after I tell you about Indeed and FanDuel. Hiring isn't just about finding someone willing to take the job. It's about finding the right person with the right background who can actually help your business move forward. And if you want candidates who match what you're looking for, Indeed Sponsored Jobs is the move. Because instead of hoping the right person stumbles across your post, Indeed helps you match with quality candidates by boosting your job listing to the people who fit your specific criteria, like skills, certifications, and location. If I were hiring, I just wouldn't want someone who can help. I want someone with real experience who can jump right in. That's what I like about Indeed. You get specific and target exactly what you need. Saves time because you're spending less energy sorting through mismatches. And with sponsored jobs, your posts get seen by candidates who actually fit. And here's the stat that says it all. In the minute I've been talking to you, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. That's Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring, do it the right way with Indeed. And FanDuel. The Winter Games are officially here. And if you're anything like us, you're locking in for events you only get to see on the biggest stage every 4 years. That's why following the Winter Games on FanDuel just makes sense. From medal counts to individual events to finding your angle on the sports you care about most, FanDuel gives you more ways to stay connected to the action. How about the curling? What was there, a 54-year-old for Team USA fulfilling a 30-year-old dream? How about that? Speed skating races decided by inches, hockey games that feel different right from the opening face-off. Even niche events become must-watch when you're fully locked into the competition. And FanDuel keeps the entire Olympic experience engaging from start to finish. The Winter Games are on, and there's no better way to follow them than with FanDuel. FanDuel, play your game. All right, Dave Schultz, Lockdown Sunbelt, your teams every day. Only 3 games tonight in the Sunbelt basketball-wise. You had South Alabama and Southern Miss, James Madison hosting Georgia State, and Coastal Carolina was in Lafayette taking on the Cajuns. And these were all staggered starts, as it turns out. James Madison and Georgia State, I believe, started at 7:30 Eastern time. Cajun started at 8 o'clock Eastern time, and South Alabama and Southern Miss started at 8:30 Eastern time. As you guys know, it's all about me. So that helps to be able to watch all the finishes of these ball games. We're going to go in reverse order of how they finish. South Alabama hangs on to defeat Southern Miss 84-78. Some big things in this ball game. First of all, Jaden Cooper had 34 points. He was outstanding. How about 7 of 9 from 3? 10 of 16 overall, 7 of 8 from the free throw line, and that's a big deal because you guys know I'm hashtag always the bright side, but the South Alabama is going to have issues with Chaze Harris going 8 for 17 from the free throw line. Somewhere along the way, he's going to have to come out of the ball game, and it could cost the Jaguars. He had a great ball game otherwise, 26 points, 9 out of 11 shooting, had 4 assists. He's going to be up for Sunbelt Player of the Year, certainly one of them, and he can't make a free throw. The game would have been over much, much sooner. And again, I'm not one of those guys where you got to make all your free throws. That's not easy to do, obviously. But, South Alabama missed 16 free throws, 8 in the second half. If you just make half of what you missed, 8, it's a 92-78 victory and probably over a lot quicker than it was. Southern Miss would not go away. I'll say that. Also, Adam Olson can't buy a bucket these days. 1 out of 10 from the floor, 1 of 8 from 3, even 1 of 3 from the free throw line. I mean, goodness, he is struggling. On the other side, Southern Miss got it inside against South Alabama. Very few teams have gotten it inside against South Alabama. The Golden Eagles matched South Alabama's points in the paint, 32 each. That does not happen very often. No, that does not happen at all. The way you beat South Alabama usually is making a bunch of threes. They made 8 out of 20. Hart was really good in the first half, made like 3 out of 4, and then only took a couple in the second half, and one was a last-second heave at the end. He finished with 11 points. Weeks was he had 25 points, outstanding from the free throw line, 11 out of 12. But Bennett, he had 15 points, 5 out of 8 from the floor, 5 for 5 from the free throw line, and 12 rebounds. Again, they got it inside a bunch. The guards did a good job of splitting the zone. They got it into Bennett down low. What are the rebounds in this? Total rebounds, Southern Miss out-rebounded South Alabama, which is not a huge surprise because that's usually what happens with that zone, 36-26. But South Alabama was able to hang on despite Weeks' effort with his 25 points and Bennett's 15. The issue with Southern Miss, and this was kind of a game within a game. I mean, they had 21 turnovers. South Alabama had 10. It felt like 8 of them were in this stretch in the first half. They had a big lead in the first half. It got cut down to single digits, and then it was going to be a 9-point game, and Southern Miss hit a half-court heave with tenths of a second left to go in the half, so it was a 6-point game. South Alabama had a 14-point lead in this ball game, and what did it get to? It was 60-46. And how close did they get? I'm not sure they got. I mean, the final score is 84-78, so it got down to 6, obviously. But how closer did it get? It got down to 78-74. It got to 65-61. Yeah. Again, I like guessing the scores, and it's 60-46 with about 13 minutes left to go. I was like, if you score 70, they'll be in good shape. They needed a little bit more today to do that. So South Alabama ends up maintaining their position in the Sun Belt Conference standings. They go just ahead of Marshall. Again, that'll be all played out. I think they put them ahead of them mostly because they're 18-7 and Marshall is 16-9. So South Alabama and Marshall will be playing on Monday, so that will be taking care of itself. All right. Coastal Carolina, they went into Lafayette and played a very hot Cajuns team that had won 4 in a row and 5 out of 6 and did not trail. And they did a good job of not letting the game get away because the game could have gotten away. All right. The Cajuns aren't drawing big crowds, but the crowds there that was there making a lot of noise, and Coastal Carolina did a good job of hanging on. Cajuns had a shot in this one, had a couple of shots, and just couldn't quite finish it off. Free throw wise, they were all right. They missed some key free throws, but again, you can't make them all. They were 20 out of 25. Coastal Carolina probably won the game at the line because they were 20 out of 23, made 11 out of 12 in the second half, whereas the Cajuns 11 out of 15, and there may have been a couple of missed front ends of 1-on-1s. Not great. Josh Beadle had a huge ball game, 29 points. Again, 11 out of 12 from the free throw line himself. Dantzler hit a huge three-pointer. He had 15 points, and Jones had 10 points for Coastal Carolina. Finister had 19 along with Olvera. For the Cajuns, Laverne had 15. There was kind of a play-on type situation. Finister, I think, did he bump in with Jones? Jones bumped into him, and they didn't call anything. Finister kind of stood over him, yelling at him. One of the Coastal Carolina players on the court, not off the bench, pushed Finister away a little bit. And the refs said, just take the ball out. Not shooting free throws, no technicals. We're just nothing. So nothing happened with that. It was a foul on Finister. So they just gave the ball to Coastal Carolina. I'm pretty sure that's what happened. That's a good job by Coastal Carolina because, again, they have an outside shot at getting a 4 or 5 seed. They are 2 games behind South Alabama and Marshall. Cajuns fall a little bit too far behind. They're 6-7. Kind of like what Quantus White is doing there. These guys are all banged up. They're missing 3 or 4 players and guys who are contributing that were not expected to contribute. And, Coastal Carolina is all of a sudden playing good basketball, and can they sneak in that 4 or 5 spot to make a run in that the 3 or 4 spot to make a run in the Sun Belt Conference tournament. And then you have JMU, who did everything in their power to try and lose to Georgia State, and they hung on to win it 81-79 in overtime. This was a crazy basketball game. All right. Talk about missed free throws. Georgia State went 15 out of 22 and missed some key free throws. And yet, they still only lost by 2 in overtime. I believe it was Micah Tucker who missed 2 free throws late that would have tied the ball game up in regulation, and then somehow hits an impossible turnaround fadeaway jumper on the baseline over a much bigger player to tie it up. Doesn't get bonus points for level of difficulty, but made a great shot that forced overtime. And again, they missed free throw. Georgia State missed more free throws down the stretch. And it's been that kind of year for Georgia State. The thing was, JMU was up big in this ball game in the second half, 54-39, and Georgia State went on a 16-2 run. So just like Coastal Carolina did a good job of not letting it get away, either did JMU. And JMU's had all kinds of issues this year finishing games off. So that's a good job by JMU. They get App State on Saturday. Good luck to the Dukes. Without having actually a chance to maybe win the Sun Belt Conference tournament, I guess they will have a shot at that. But this may be their chance to, the way I would look at it, prove that you can compete in the Sun Belt Conference. If you can beat App State, it's at home, I believe. We'll check that out here in a second. But if you can beat App State, that'll give your team a bunch of confidence that you can compete with anybody in the Sun Belt. And who knows what happens from there. All right, again, if Coastal can sneak into that 3 or 4 spot, you only have to win 3 games compared to more than that, which is almost impossible compared to the teams that only have to win 2 or 3. All right, so South Alabama survives. Southern Miss again. These were not the best played games. You also give a lot of credit to Southern Miss for hanging in there. They could have gotten blown out in this ball game. They lost 84-78. Coastal Carolina hung on 69-65 against the Cajuns. And JMU hung on 81-79. All right. Not one of these was necessarily a thing of beauty, but nice wins nonetheless. All right. Who's going to stay hot this weekend? We'll talk about that next after I tell you about Mazda. This is Mazda's moving the game forward. For those who show there's more to the score than what's on the screen. All right, let's talk about those JMU Dukes. It has not been the season that JMU thought they were going to have. They were picked to win the conference. They have just had not a good season whatsoever and almost blew a big lead at home to Georgia State. But they hung in there and come away with a victory. Cliff Davis, he led the way with 26 points. I think Bradley Douglas hit a couple of big free throws, the former Georgia Southern Eagle. Justin McBride, he also had a big ball game, 22 points and 9 rebounds. These remind us of what it really takes to raise the bar. It's that extra work off the court, dialing in every detail, giving it that extra fire, that grit, and I never quit. We put the same passion into every model. Highlights make the reel. What it took to get there makes it count. There's more to a Mazda because there's more to you. Let me tell you about the Everydayer Club. Thank you for making Locked On Sunbelt your first listen of the day. And thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. You already live Sunbelt sports every day. Now take it up a level and go ad free. Join the Everydayer Club today and get Locked On Sunbelt with no interruptions, all for just $5 a month or $50 a year. Go to LockedOnSunbelt.supercast.com or check the link in the show notes to learn more. All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your teams every day. All right, so we'll be, obviously we're going to go over a lot baseball-wise and basketball-wise on Monday. We may have some bonus episodes. Again, I'm off today, so we're going to watch some baseball. And we will see if we get the conversation with JMU's head coach Marlon Eichenberry for a Saturday bonus episode. All right. But who's going to stay hot this weekend? So just quickly going over the standings heading into the weekend. App State does have that half a game lead over Troy. South Alabama, App State's 10-4. Troy is 9-4. South Alabama and Marshall are each 8-4. Coastal Carolina 8-6. Texas State is 8-6. Again, Texas State kind of lurking, right? We picked up on that a few episodes ago. Arkansas State, they're going to get South Alabama. They're 7-6. That's going to be a nice offensive game against a defensive game. Georgia Southern and the Cajuns 6-7. Georgia State 6-7. Georgia State all of a sudden has lost 3 in a row. They were 6-3 in the Sun Belt in second place. They've lost 4 in a row. Southern Miss drops to 6-8. JMU 5-8. Old Dominion 4-9, and Monroe is 1-12. All right. So meanwhile, what's coming up in the conference this weekend? We told you Arkansas State is hosting South Alabama. That's a big ball game. That's a 3 p.m. game on Saturday. And again, that's the high-flying offense of Arkansas State against that stifling zone defense against South Alabama. We'll see if Arkansas State picked up anything that Southern Miss did, because if you can get it inside against South Alabama, that is a huge deal. And Southern Miss did it. They couldn't quite finish it off. On a side note, Southern Miss leads the Sun Belt in free throws made. Leads it in free throws made, but has a losing record. Is that a thing? You would think that would be the opposite. If you lead the league in free throws made, you'd be probably sitting on top. But that's what they said today during the broadcast. All right, so Texas State has Monroe. That should be an easy ball game. Texas State should improve to 9-6. All right. And they're obviously hoping for a Arkansas State win to pull South Alabama closer to the 5-6 spots. All right. Old Dominion and Georgia State. Who knows what you're going to get outside of the effort is going to be there for these two games, for these two teams. All right. Neither one of them having the season that they were hoping for. Old Dominion is 8-18. Georgia State is 9-17. But Old Dominion doesn't get blown out. And Georgia State, for a while now, they haven't been getting blown out, right? They just lost to JMU by 2. They lost to Northern Illinois by 1. They lost to Troy by 11. Lost by 2 to South Alabama. They did lose by 10 to the Cajuns. They beat Arkansas State by 1. They beat Southern Miss by 7. They did blow out Monroe by 20. But, they play tough ball games. They're tough. Same with ODU. They lose a lot of ball games, but it's usually – the difference is usually on one hand. So it could be a very good ball game as both these teams try to gain a little momentum before heading into the conference tournament in a few weeks. I guess the big ball game this week is App State is at JMU. Can JMU take down App State? We don't have a line yet. It'll probably come out sometime later today or even on Saturday. That ball game is at 4:00 on ESPN Plus. All right. Troy is at Southern Miss. Again, winning on the road is tough. Troy obviously realized that. They're coming off the loss to Texas State. And then on ESPNU, Marshall goes into Georgia Southern. Again, I don't know what's happened to Georgia Southern because they have gone in just the opposite direction. They got off to an interesting start, had reeled off, 8 straight win, 9 win. They had a 9-game winning streak. They got embarrassed by South Alabama. They beat Old Dominion, but then lost to Coastal, lost to Arkansas State, lost to Troy, beat UL Monroe, and now have lost to the Cajuns, Texas State, and App State. It has been not a good season for Georgia Southern. Started out that way, but it has not been lately. Can Marshall set themselves up for a big win? That'd be 2 wins on the road before they go home to play South Alabama. Can Marshall set themselves up to get that 3rd seed by beating South Alabama on Monday? So they'll also be playing 3 games in 5 days. So no major advantage for either Marshall or South Alabama. The teams that are going to have the advantage is going to be that next week. That's where the advantage is going to be. It's going to be very interesting to find out, if we do find out, how those coaches handle that, right? Marshall's at home, so that's easier. The Jaguars, do we have a time for that game? Is that during the day? Hold on, I'm sorry. Louisiana is, why do I keep on saying that? Louisiana is going to Marshall. South Alabama is going to ODU. I don't know why I got that in my head. Are these games early or not? No, they're not. They're 7 p.m. Jeez, 7 p.m. on a Monday. So South Alabama is probably not going to get back until the next day, is my guess, Tuesday morning. And then you're playing on Thursday. Let's see when you're playing again. They're playing the 16th and they're playing on the 19th. So that's Thursday, right? 17th, 18th. All right. So we'll see how that happens. I don't know why. So the Cajuns are playing Marshall, and South Alabama is going to ODU. I don't know why I conflated that, but I did. So we'll see what happens. All right. And we only got a couple more weeks for, the regular season. We got this weekend, this Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday deal. And then it happens again next week. And then the final week of the year, which I may or may not be in Louisiana for, is a Wednesday, Friday deal. They want everybody as rested as possible going into the conference tournament. Remember, the Sun Belt starts a week before everybody else. So we'll see how it goes. All right. So the goal today is hopefully talk to Marlon Eichenberger, the JMU baseball coach. All right. So that'll be 10 out of the 14 coaches. That's pretty good. All right. I guess I was hoping for all of them, but 10 is a pretty good consolation prize. So maybe the others come on, maybe they don't. It's good. So we got basketball we'll cover, and baseball. Probably could talk to a little softball as well. So there's obviously, this is crossover season. There's a ton going on, but so excited for baseball season to be returning, and we'll be all over it here on Locked On Sunbelt. All right. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate the support. Go and subscribe over at Locked On Sunbelt if you haven't done that yet. It's a big, big help. You've been watching and listening to Locked On Sunbelt, your teams every day. Have a great Friday, everybody. Enjoy the weekend. We'll see if we have a bonus episode on Saturday or not. Otherwise, I will talk to you on Monday.